On the way to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce, something unbelievable happened. Without any warning, I suddenly heard my wife's inner thoughts. A modern, elegant lady, Shenruoxi, who had always been aloof and cold, was glaring at me with disgust. But in the very next second, a sweet, whiny voice, a grieved voice on the verge of tears, crashed straight into my mind when I was completely off guard. Hubby, I don't want to get a divorce at all. If I pretend to be sick right now, then we wouldn't have to go, right? Hubby, please don't abandon me. A perfect wife like me, with fair skin and a great figure, not to mention these long, gorgeous legs. If you throw me away, someone else will definitely pick me up and hide me away, and they absolutely won't give me back to you. Hearing these words, I was so shocked that I slammed on the brakes, nearly rear-ending the car in front of us. Filled with absolute horror, I stiffly turned my head to look at Shenruoxi. Her delicate eyebrows were as cold as ice. Even her long eyelashes didn't flutter in the slightest. Her entire being remained as aloof and chilly as a flawless, white jade statue. I must have heard wrong. I swallowed hard, suppressing the shock in my heart, and asked probingly, "Us getting a divorce? It shouldn't have any major impact on your life, right?" Only then did Shenruoxi slowly pull her gaze back from the window. She tilted her head slightly to observe me, her voice as cold and clear as water. "It's nothing, no big deal." But her inner monologue was like a string of lit firecrackers popping off loudly deep in my mind. "You liar, how could it not affect me? In our high society circle, there's an unspoken rule, you know, there's no such thing as divorce. Only widows or widowers. If hubby is really so heartless as to get that divorce certificate, then I'll go find a rope and end it all right now. Just watch me. Without hubby by my side, there's no joy left for me in this life. I don't want a divorce. Right now, I just want hubby to kiss me, hug me, and lift me up high this time." It absolutely wasn't my imagination. Her small, rosy lips were clearly pressed tightly together, yet those words were incredibly clear, as if she were right next to my ear shouting directly into it. Shenruoxi seemed to notice my strange expression. She suddenly turned her head and our eyes met in the air. She hesitated for a moment, then lowered her voice and asked, "I'm not feeling very well today. How about we do the divorce paperwork another day?" "Shenruoxi, you're a genius. You finally managed to say it, hubby. Please agree with me. Let's just go home right now. No more talk about divorce. If I don't have my hubby, how am I supposed to live from now on?" Whether it's crying, throwing a tantrum, or threatening to end it all, or acting spoiled and cute, I can do it all. Whether it's an edgy style or a sweet one, black stockings, white stockings, or fishnets, as long as it's what hubby likes. I'll wear them all for you. These crazy thoughts made my temples throb from the noise. But looking at her exterior, that face trying so hard to look timid yet cold, I felt like I was under some kind of spell. Somehow, I changed my mind. If that's the case, then let's just head back for today. Deep in Shenruoxi's eyes, a gleam of light flashed for a split second, but she restrained herself and gave a slight nod. She replied calmly, "I'll follow your lead." In the car on the way back, the suffocating silence from earlier was completely shattered. I could hear it clear as day. In her heart, she was humming a tune, cheerful but completely off-key. Every other sentence was hubby, so sweet, it was sickening. It wasn't until this moment that Lu Jinyun suddenly realized he seemed to know absolutely nothing about the wife he shared a bed with. Rumor had it she was a noble, unattainable snow lotus, a professor born with a silver spoon, impossible to get close to. But who would have thought that behind that beautiful, icy exterior hid a chatterbox of a gossipy auntie, and on top of that, a crybaby who whimpered in her heart at the drop of a hat. Back then, we had a flash marriage. We agreed to get the certificate first and build our feelings later. Unfortunately, we were both swamped with work, coupled with her personality. That kept people 1,000 miles away. We were supposed to be husband and wife, yet we lived like mere roommates. We even slept in separate bedrooms. Pushing the door open and entering the house, we still kept our distance, one in front of the other. Shenruoxi changed into her slippers. "How boring. I'm still feeling a bit tired. I'm going to my room to rest. I need to hurry back to my room and look up online how exactly to coax my hubby into a good mood. Oh right, those stockings I bought a while ago. I wonder which corner I stuffed them into. I definitely have to dig them out. This is so frustrating. Why on earth does hubby like that cold, arrogant type anyway? If he has feelings for this poker face of mine, then why can't he like the real me? I'm obviously super easy to coax, and I'm as passionate as fire, too. Even if he makes me mad, it would only take 3 seconds. Max. Before I turned right around and clinged to him, coaxing him instead, I stood dazed at the entrance, my head filled with question marks. Who on earth was out there running their mouth, telling her that I liked the Ice Queen type? Talk about making things up out of thin air, but this massive contrast between her exterior and interior sparked an unprecedented, passionate interest in Shen Ruoxi. The most important thing was, hearing this clingy tone in her inner thoughts, how could there be any sign that she had no feelings for me? Between the two of us, there seemed to be a colossal misunderstanding. Unfortunately, for the entire afternoon, Shen Ruoxi locked herself in her room, not stepping out for even half a second. Because the distance was too great, I couldn't catch her inner drama anymore. That evening, I originally had a dinner appointment with an important client. When I stood outside her door to say goodbye, the voice echoing from inside was the same lifeless response as always. Got it, hubby isn't taking me out to eat with him again. He's always running off to meet those old clients. Are his clients prettier than me or something? It must be because I haven't been understanding enough. That's why hubby is so dead set on divorcing me. My eyes are about to swell up from crying. No, I need to go get some ice to compress them right now. I had just reached the front door when I couldn't help but freeze. A complex mix of emotions suddenly swirled in my heart. In my ingrained impression of her, Shen Ruoxi always had that demeanor, so calm that even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of her, her expression wouldn't change, let alone shedding tears. Even a frown was incredibly rare. Who would have thought that behind my back, just because I went to entertain clients, she would be secretly wiping away tears in her room? Hurriedly wrapping up the dinner with my client, I didn't linger outside for long and quickly returned home. After washing up, lying on my spacious bed, I stared blankly at the ceiling, my mind a tangled mess. Were we actually going to get divorced this time or not? I was never the type to drag things out. Even if we really were going to split up, before signing the papers, I had to have a frank conversation with Shen Ruoxi to figure out exactly what she was hiding in her heart. 1,000 thoughts swirled in my head. Just as I was secretly pondering, I suddenly heard a few soft but urgent knocks on the door. Come in, I said, sitting up from the bed. Looking up, I saw Shen Ruoxi standing prettily at the door. She had clearly just finished showering as well. Her long black hair cascaded like a waterfall, draping softly over her rounded shoulders. Her entire body still lingered with the faint scent of body wash and mist. Her peach blossom eyes, which usually slanted upward, exuding a cold aura, were now drooping obediently. The corners of her eyes were tinged with a suspicious redness. Did you need me for something? I'm still not feeling very well. Could you take a look at me? Her voice had shed its usual coldness, sounding a bit gentler, even carrying a hint of imperceptible shyness. Hubby, I'm begging you 1,000,000 times, please don't reject me, otherwise I'm really going to cry. To take this step, I stayed up all night, mentally preparing myself countless times before I finally gathered the courage to run over here. I didn't study medicine. If you're not feeling well, I'll get dressed and take you to the emergency room right now. Saying that, I prepared to get out of bed. Just as I was about to step away, a small, fair, and delicate hand suddenly pressed against my shoulder. There's no need to go through the trouble of going to the hospital. I know exactly what's wrong with me. It's just, hubby, don't stare at me with those eyes. My heart is about to jump out of my chest. It's literally jumping out. I'm so nervous I could die. But why is he so handsome tonight? Hubby, my whole body is turning to jelly. I have no strength left at all. Could you massage me a little? The moment those words slipped out, the tidy bedroom seemed to be drained of all its air. It fell into a deadly silence. I could even clearly feel her bubbly inner monologue hitting the pause button in the blink of an eye. The surrounding air seemed to freeze solid. Immediately after, Shen Ruoxi's fair, smiling face flushed red at a visible speed. The redness spread all the way down her slender neck. Then, she bit her plump red lips tightly, unable to utter a single word. Your chest feels tight? I raised an eyebrow. I'm going crazy. Why did I just blurt out all the nonsense in my head? And I actually said it out loud. I was supposed to say something else. Shen Ruoxi, you're an absolute idiot. Seeing her flustered state, I couldn't help but want to tease her. So Professor Shen, aren't you going to explain yourself a bit? I was just in a rush. She suddenly grabbed my hand tightly and pressed it firmly just below her chest. It's just that my chest feels so tight and uncomfortable. If you rub it a little, it'll feel better right away. They say the bolder you are, the more you get to enjoy. Since I've already gone this far anyway, What's left to be afraid of? Hubby, hurry up and rub it. What are you just standing there for? Feeling her soft, smooth skin against my palm, by pure reflex, my fingertips didn't move an inch. The next second, as if scorched by fire, the skin all over Roxy's body quickly flushed with a bewitching shade of pink. Even her slender fingertips trembled uncontrollably. You're experiencing chest tightness and shortness of breath. Taking some Xiaoyao pills should help. Let me go find them in the medicine cabinet. Before I could even finish my sentence, Roxy suddenly acted like a startled rabbit, lunging forward and pinning me down. Perhaps because she couldn't control her strength in the heat of the moment, I lost my footing. I fell backward with the momentum. The two of us instantly tumbled onto the soft mattress together. Her entire body was pressed tightly against mine, without a single gap. Her cute little nose was almost touching my chin. In the midst of the panic, I sharply realized that her restless little hands seemed to have accidentally brushed against my abs. Oh my god, he actually has a six-pack. It feels absolutely amazing to touch. In my entire life, I've never done anything terribly wrong. So touching it once shouldn't be illegal, right? Just one last touch. Just one more, I swear. Stop pressing down on me. Move aside a bit. You're crushing my chest, I said helplessly. Roxy really was the type of person who only dared to go wild in her own head. Just listen to her. She frantically propped her hands against the bed, trying to scramble up. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I absolutely didn't mean to. Seeing her panicked, flustered state, I kindly reached out to support her waist. However, the very moment my fingertips brushed against her slender waist, Roxy's entire body stiffened as if struck by lightning. Immediately after, as if all the bones in her body had been drained away, she turned completely limp like a puddle of spring water, crashing heavily into my chest once again. With the way you are right now, I find it really hard to believe you didn't plan this. I looked at her with a faint, teasing smile. That's really not it. The soft spot on my waist isn't supposed to be touched so casually. It's super sensitive. The urge to tease her grew even stronger in my heart. As a result, before I could even say another word, her barrage of rambling thoughts started up again. I'm doomed. I'm doomed. I'm doomed. I actually touched his real, authentic abs. I'm so excited, and he touched my waist, too. Even though it tickled a bit, it felt so magical. Hubby's fingers are so long and beautiful. I really wish he'd just leave his hand there a little longer. No way, Roxy. Snap out of it right now. These thoughts are way too perverted. I could only sigh inwardly. This image of the aloof, Ice Queen professor had completely shattered to pieces in front of me today. A few minutes later, separated by a coffee table, we sat opposite each other on the sofa. Roxy still wore a tense expression on her small face, trying her hardest to maintain her cold, noble veneer, that distant mask of hers. Unfortunately, the stubborn flush on her cheeks that refused to fade made her look more like she was baring her fangs and claws, a little kitten trying to act fierce. She remained silent, just staring at me unblinkingly, seemingly waiting for me to speak first to break the deadlock. But her lively inner thoughts had already revealed all her cards. Other than a sweet romance, I don't want to discuss anything else with hubby. Last time he said he wanted to find a time to have a proper talk. Was he planning to discuss whether we should keep living together or not? If I had known, I should have changed into a sexier nightgown with more lethal appeal earlier. What a huge loss. Earlier, when I suggested a divorce, you seemed to agree very decisively. I thought you had also realized that our marriage was facing serious problems. I decided to cut straight to the chase. I don't feel any difference at all. We've always maintained the arrangement we agreed upon before getting married, living together with mutual respect. I'm actually incredibly curious. What is the real reason you're so insistent on getting a divorce? What exactly is it? Unfortunately, this supposedly serious interrogation atmosphere was once again completely ruined by her intense inner monologue. Boo-hoo, hubby! Why on earth do you want to abandon me? Could it be that out there you've been bewitched by some vixen? Which shameless green tea bitch dares to come and steal my husband? Is she even as pretty as me? Is her figure as good as mine? Is she as highly educated as me? Is she as good at pretending to be frigid as me? Even though I'm a total drama queen, I'm using Oscar-worthy acting skills to put on the show, you know. Could you just be quiet in your head for a second? This deadly barrage of questions was making my head want to explode. As soon as I said that, the world around me suddenly went dead silent. I didn't say anything just now, did I? Roxy thought blankly. The next second, her inner voice rang out again with uncontrollable excitement. Wow! Hubby looks so hot even when he's angry, but the fiercer he gets, the more handsome I find him. Why is that? I suddenly feel the urge to drop to my knees right here and now. What should I do? Shenroxy, what kind of perverted nonsense are you thinking about? But if hubby really likes this type, then I guess it's not entirely unacceptable. The corners of my mouth couldn't help but twitch. Beneath the perfect facade of this cold, aloof professor, just how many more? Bizarre, suffocating thoughts is she hiding? I'm the one who suggested the divorce. It has nothing to do with any other woman. We had an agreement before we got married. If, after a few years of living together, no real spark developed, we would part ways amicably. For the past 2 years, we've both been working ourselves to the bone. We've been more distant than roommates. I thought you would have long since grown tired of this stagnant, lifeless existence. Besides, I happened to overhear someone mention that back in high school there was a senior you could never get over. The moment she heard the word senior, the icy mask on Shenruoxi's face, which she had so painstakingly maintained, shattered in an instant. The faint blush that had just started to fade erupted like a wildfire, spreading from her neck all the way up, instantly turning her cheeks and the tips of her ears bright red. I took in her entire guilty reaction. The tiny flame that had just sparked in my heart was doused with a bucket of cold water, snuffed out in an instant. Faced with this kind of probing, any normal person would assume that, somewhere in her heart, she definitely still holds a place for that one that got away. If you're still hung up on someone else, then you really don't have to force yourself to be with me. That's right, no matter how magnanimous I, Lu Jinyun, might be, I could never accept my wife secretly hiding another man in her heart. Another man? Oh my God, my dear husband is jealous because of me. I'm so happy, so incredibly happy. What other man? There's no other man. The senior I've had a secret crush on for all these years has always been you. You big idiot. Oh, this is so frustrating. Maybe I should just take the plunge and tell him everything right now. But looking like this, with my clothes all a mess, it's so unglamorous. If I confess right now, wouldn't it be a little less than perfect? This is all because I didn't wear that sexy lace nightgown. Ugh, I'm kicking myself right now. Wait, so that senior was me? I sat there, stunned, my mind racing like a set of gears. I'm a full 2 years older than Shenruoxi, and I studied abroad during college. There's no way we could have been university schoolmates. If that's the case, then this mysterious senior she's talking about must be from middle school or high school. But I racked my brain, staring at the exquisite face before me, searching for any memory connected to Shenruoxi's beauty. Back in her school days, she must have been a total knockout. How could I have absolutely no impression of her? Just as I was about to open my mouth and ask her to clarify, Shenruoxi, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, suddenly shot up from the sofa. About the divorce you mentioned earlier, the reason I didn't respond was because a key experiment I'm in charge of ran into some unexpected problems. I just couldn't spare the mental energy. And as for that senior you mentioned, that's all ancient history. I'm really not feeling well today. Regarding the details of the divorce, can we pick another time to sit down and discuss it properly? I absolutely cannot confess now. Not like this, with no preparation. It'd be way too embarrassing. I need to meticulously plan a perfectly romantic moment to clear up all these misunderstandings. It was so obvious 3 years ago, at that high school reunion where we met again. I was completely head over heels for you. How can he have no impression of me at all? He's as dense as a rock. Seeing the flicker of anxiety and unease in her eyes, the fog of doubt in my mind only grew thicker. But my rational side told me that now really wasn't the right time to press the issue. We both needed some breathing room to sort out this messy and ridiculous relationship. All right then, let's say 3 days from now. As it happens, I have to fly out for a short business trip tomorrow. Okay, well, I'm going to my room to rest now. Good night. Good night. As I watched her slender figure hurry away, my mind was a tangled mess. It wasn't until the soft click of her bedroom door closing echoed through the room that the tension finally left my body. I leaned back against the sofa, pinching the bridge of my aching nose. So, it turns out, this professor, who seems so impossibly elegant and aloof, so stoic and untouchable, is not only a secret softie who loves to be coddled, but also a hopeless romantic, who's had a secret crush on me for years. Looks like this divorce is definitely not happening. I suddenly found myself filled with anticipation for our confession session in 3 days. The corner of my mouth twitched into a slight smile, and a grin slowly spread across my face. In my mind's eye, I pictured Shin Ruoxi, outwardly composed but screaming on the inside. That vibrant, chaotic mess of a personality. I walked with a lighter step, strolling leisurely toward my bedroom. I collapsed onto the sofa, my eyes staring blankly into space. Everything that happened today was honestly more bizarre than fiction. From the moment I suddenly started hearing her inner voice, the voice of Shin Ruoxi, I've had this feeling, this surreal feeling like I'm walking on air, or maybe I'm just dreaming. I even seriously considered whether I should make some time to schedule an appointment with a psychiatrist. Is all of this just in my head? But when I remembered that voice, that sweet coquettish call of hubby, it was too sweet to be fake. Right at this very moment, just on the other side of the door, was Shen Ruoxi. She was sprawled out on her large bed, all sense of decorum gone, thrashing around like a goldfish. Her whole body was flushed, hot as a little furnace. Lu Jinyan, did he finally realize that I've had a crush on him for so many years? No, wait, that logic is completely flawed. If Lu Jinyan knew that the so-called senior was him, why would he be so hung up on me having someone else in my heart, that he'd insist on dragging me to the courthouse to get a divorce? And where did he even hear about this? A distant memory from that brilliant summer so long ago came flooding back without warning. Hey, little elementary school kid, school's out. Why are you running around in this alley all by yourself? The tall, lanky teenager pointed toward the end of the alley, not far away. See that? Back there is vocational school turf. The thugs in there are no joke. They're vicious. Don't wander in here all by yourself again. The teenager paused for a moment, then scratched his head in frustration. How about this? Why don't I take you to the police station up ahead? Or do you have a smartwatch? Hurry up and call your parents to come get you. At that moment, Shen Ruoxi stood frozen on the spot, dazedly looking down at the clothes she was wearing, her middle school uniform, which was a little too big for her. Just then, a few impatient shouts came from outside the alley. Lu Jinyan, what are you dawdling for, kid? Hurry up and go save us a spot on the court. You guys go grab a court first. I'll be right there. The teenager turned his head and yelled back. When he faced her again, he looked at the little girl before him and gave her a serious warning. I think I just picked up a lost elementary schooler off the street. Out of humanitarian spirit, I have to fulfill my duty and hand this kid over to the police. It was on that very day that Shen Ruoxi, as if under a spell, took the name Lu Jinyan and etched it deep into her heart. She meekly followed behind the teenager to the police station. It wasn't until her parents, panting and sweating, rushed in to get her that Lu Jinyan, after making sure she was safe, turned and ran off like a flash. From that moment on, Shen Ruoxi's innocent heart was completely captured by a person named Lu Jinyan, a boy who shone so brightly. Didn't you swear to me? You found out that Lu Jinyan's type is the aloof, quiet kind, cold and reserved. To cater to his tastes, I've been forcing myself to play this part for 2 whole years. So why hasn't he fallen for me yet? He's even making a scene and trying to divorce me. The phone screen lit up. A voice message from her best friend, Yun Ying, appeared. Honey, I told you from the start that rumor wasn't necessarily 100% accurate. So, did you too? Actually, go get your divorce certificate today? Well, not exactly. Lu Jinyan texted back. I made an excuse, said I wasn't feeling well, so I just told him to drive home. And then, on a whim, like an idiot, I even tried to seduce him. And the result? Just look at me now. I'm lying here on my bed alone, whining to you. That should tell you just how pathetic my plan was. On the other end of the line, when Yun Ying saw this message, she nearly spat out the mouthful of bubble tea she had just sipped, spraying it all over her screen. Shen Ruoxi was like a completely defeated salted fish sprawled across her pillow. Her once bright face was now as wilted as a bitter melon. Even the speed of her typing had slowed down. Today, he even suddenly came and interrogated me, asking if I was hiding some senior I've been pining for all these years. He even threatened me, saying he would never accept his wife, fantasizing about some other guy. But what other guy? From the very beginning, it's only ever been him. Yun Ying stared at the message on her screen. So shocked, her eyeballs felt like they were about to pop out. Holy crap! This ridiculously cliché plot of yours, if you put this in one of those trashy CEO romance novels, you could drag it out for another 365 chapters and it still wouldn't feel wasted. So what are you two going to do now? How are you going to end this? We've already talked it over. We'll wait 3 days until he gets back from his business trip. We're going to sit down and have a frank conversation. I don't want to keep playing this Ice Queen role anymore. Putting on this act is just too exhausting. The next morning, Good morning. I made breakfast for us. Please, sit down and have some. Good morning. You made breakfast so early? You really didn't have to go to all this trouble. Hubby looks so handsome in this black shirt today. So handsome it makes my knees go weak. I feel like my whole body is about to melt into a puddle. How can I possibly like him this much? But why is my dear husband just staring at me without saying a word? Did I accidentally do something wrong again? Did I make him unhappy? Hearing these colorful inner thoughts, it finally dawned on me. All that stuff she was muttering about before, black stockings, white stockings, fishnets, it definitely wasn't just empty talk. This woman, on the surface, maintains the image of a cold, highly educated professor, but deep down she possesses such a wild and passionate soul. How strange. I actually find myself, regarding those lethal weapons she mentioned, feeling a secret sense of anticipation. Before heading out the door, I gave Shenroxy a deep look. A flicker of hesitation crossed my mind. In the end, I still offered a quiet reminder. I'm heading to the airport. Wait! She suddenly called out, stopping me. Your tie seems a little crooked. Quick, quick, quick. This is the perfect chance for me, as his wife, to help my hubby fix his outfit. Please don't go look in the mirror. A mirror could never be as skillful as my own two hands. Waiting until you're on the plane to tie it is pretty much the same thing, right? Hearing her desperate inner pleas, my hand, which was about to adjust my tie, stopped midair. I turned around and stared at her as she tried her best to look cold and aloof. I slowly spoke up. Well, I'd hate to impose, but could I trouble Professor Gu to tie it for me? I won't bother with the mirror. Let me fix it for you. The moment she stepped closer, I finally realized that her acting skills were actually incredibly clumsy. In those sparkling, watery peach blossom eyes, she couldn't hide it at all. The joy and excitement were practically spilling out. With such obvious flaws in her act, how was I so blind not to notice it before? She took a small step forward, wrapping her fair, slender hands around my neck and gently adjusted my tie. Honestly, the tie was perfectly straight to begin with. It wasn't crooked in the slightest. She just wanted to find a legitimate excuse to get a little closer to me. When other people's husbands go on business trips, their wives can openly and proudly ask for a sweet goodbye hug. But I have to rely on this clumsy excuse, just to sneak a little perk. But that's okay. After all, none of their husbands are as handsome as mine. The distance between us was incredibly close. Even if I wasn't intentionally listening to her inner thoughts, if this were yesterday, I definitely would have felt that a hug at this crucial moment was completely inappropriate. After all, just the day before, we were still at each other's throats over whether or not to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau, pushed to the absolute limit. I let out a soft cough, hiding the smile tugging at the corners of my lips. Her soft, slender fingers seemed to carry 1,000 ounces of reluctance as they slowly slipped away from the edge of my tie. Have a safe trip. I hope your work goes smoothly. Thanks. Right as I turned around, grabbing my suitcase to head out, I heard her tangled inner thoughts again. A soft, aggrieved whimper. My footsteps stopped unconsciously. I looked back at her, my tone gentler than it had ever been. Be a good girl and wait for me to come home. Hubby just spoke to me so gently. I'm going to drown in all this sweetness. Actually, not long after arriving at the airport, I met up with Song Jijong, who was traveling with me. This guy leaned in with a panicked look on his face. I'm telling you, Lu Jinyun, you're about to become a single man again. So why do you look so damn happy? Wait, that's not right. I just heard that you two didn't make it to the Civil Affairs Bureau yesterday, right? He paused for a moment, then added with a teasing tone. Your gossip network is pretty extensive. Huh? Gossip King? Song Jijong chuckled nervously, feeling guilty. Deep down, he was a nervous wreck. He couldn't just casually admit that he had been secretly keeping in touch with his ex-girlfriend, Lin Ying, right? After all, they had gone their separate ways years ago, yet they still kept each other on WeChat to share updates at a moment's notice. If word of this got out in our circle, he'd definitely be laughed out of town by our awful friends. What's worse is that he was the one who couldn't keep his mouth shut in the first place, accidentally leaking my preferences to Yunying. And because of that, Gu Qingcheng had to painstakingly build up her ice goddess persona for 2 whole years just to hide her awkwardness. Song Jijong hurriedly changed the subject. No way, man. Can you really bear to divorce Shen Ruoxi? With Professor Gu's education, figure, and looks, the second you two finalize the divorce, who knows how many rich heirs will be lining up to take your place. I didn't bother responding to him. I just suddenly dropped my smile, my dark gaze fixed intensely on him. After a long moment, I let out a soft chuckle. You little punk, you seem awfully invested in my wife, don't you? Whoa, bro, don't go putting words in my mouth. Song Jijong waved his hands frantically in panic, looking like he wanted to swear on his life that he already had a dream girl. I swear I'd never try to steal your woman. He gulped, as if suddenly remembering something, and probed cautiously, lowering his voice. Bro, tell me the truth. Are you so dead set on getting a divorce? Because I accidentally let it slip before, and told you that Shen Roxy has had a crush on a senior for years. Good thing I have this mind-reading hack now. Otherwise, I'd definitely be taking the fall for this misunderstanding. Yunying was the one who leaked all of this to me, bro. Calm down, don't get mad. I had no idea. That stupid rumor was so far off the mark. Didn't you two unfriend each other like 800 years ago? And stop talking completely. What other intel did she leak to you? I suddenly remembered yesterday when Shinroxy was frantically muttering in her mind. You kept saying that I like the elegant, intellectual type like Jin Yuki. Honestly, I only found out after he explained it yesterday that apparently I'm into that type. But heaven is my witness, I really have no interest in those ice-cold faces. I narrowed my eyes dangerously, looking down and scrutinizing Song Jizong. It's nothing major. It's just that, back then, Yunying came to me asking around, wondering what kind of girls you usually liked. At the time, I saw that you seemed to have a pretty good first impression of Shen Roxy, so I just went with the flow and pieced together your usual taste to tell her. I did it entirely out of brotherhood. It was the ultimate wingman move. Prompted by his words, my dusty memories finally came rushing back. Back when we went on our first blind date. Even though Shen Ruoxi was naturally quiet, every frown and smile of hers radiated a lively energy. She looked incredibly cute, but I don't know since when. Probably not long after we got our marriage certificate. She completely stopped smiling. Combined with the time, I accidentally touched her waist, and the panicked reaction she had, with all that back and forth, I believed without a shadow of a doubt that living under the same roof as me made her utterly miserable. So this was the root of all the misunderstandings. I took a deep breath, suppressing the urge to punch someone. Other people's bros are brilliant wingmen full of great strategies. Why is it that when it comes to me, I get stuck with a useless idiot? All thanks to this useless teammate of yours. So what exactly did you tell her back then? About my ideal type, I asked, grinding my teeth. You know, the elegant, generous, intelligent, and independent type. That aloof, untouchable snow pear blossom? Back when you were in college, when you rejected the prettiest girl from the department next door, didn't you use the excuse, I only like independent, shove, and cold girls as your shield? Song Jizong, I really have you to thank, my good friend. You can't even tell the difference between a flimsy excuse I used on a stranger and my genuine feelings. Really, man, I was wrong. I was so wrong. But who told you to go through all 4 years of college without a single girlfriend? Single since birth. How was I supposed to know if that was just an excuse or not? The source of the misunderstanding was finally clear. But in the end, the biggest fault still lay with the two of us. Married for 2 years, and yet not once did we ever have a deep, heart-to-heart conversation. That's how a small misunderstanding blew up into a comedy of errors that almost ended in divorce. Meanwhile, Shen Roxy was on the campus of Capital University, hurrying toward her research lab. Her experiment. Truth be told, as long as she wasn't facing Lu Jinwu, Shen Ruoxi's state of mind was perfectly normal. As for her cold personality, it wasn't entirely an act. In front of outsiders, she really did have a habit of putting on a proud and distant shell. The moment she pushed open the lab door, the 4 graduate students who had been huddled together whispering froze as if they'd been hit by a binding spell. They immediately stood up straight and politely greeted Professor Gu. Good morning. Shen Roxy's face was expressionless as she gave a customary nod. Good morning. Cut the chatter. Start your reports now. The experimental data you ran last night. For the entire day, she buried herself in the lab, keeping a close eye on these students without stepping away for a second. Their error-riddled data was pointed out and corrected by her one by one. It wasn't until her best friend Yun Ying called that she looked up at the wall clock and realized it was already 6:30 p.m. She casually glanced at her phone screen without picking up, and the pen in her hand didn't even pause. It's getting late. We'll stop here for today. You guys head back and get some rest. The female student in the white lab coat, Lu Quan, cautiously approached. Professor Gu, would you like to grab dinner with us tonight? The male student next to her, Qing Quan, hurriedly chimed in eagerly. Yeah, Professor, right across from the campus. A new Biku place opened up with super high ratings. We really want to treat you tonight so you can get some good food in you. No need. You guys go ahead. My only wish is that the next time you submit your lab reports, the margin of error isn't so ridiculously huge. She slightly raised her eyes, her sharp gaze sweeping over the two of them. We're so sorry, Professor. Next time we run the experiment, we'll definitely be twice as careful. It scared them so much they bowed their heads repeatedly. Shenruoxi gave a cold hum of acknowledgement. I'm starving to death. My stomach is about to cave in from hunger. I already promised Yunying we'd get Babe Q tonight, but I miss my hubby so much. If only I could go eat Babe Q with my hubby, I'd be so incredibly happy. The students below were frantically exchanging looks. Even though Professor Gu looks as ethereally beautiful as a fairy goddess, every time I report my data, my calves are literally shaking. Back when I first got into grad school, I heard the seniors say Professor Gu was young and highly talented and had won countless major awards. I thought such a young grad school advisor would be easy to talk to. I was so thrilled back then. Tell me, guys, when Professor Gu goes home and faces her husband, is she this strict too? Cold as ice, meanwhile, Shenruoxi was all ready. Sitting in Yunying's flashy red sports car. I swear my intelligence network must have made a massive mistake. If it really was a mistake, just tell that punk song, Jijong. To wash his neck and wait for death. I really don't want to divorce Lu Jinyan. I'm not getting a divorce. Relax. You won't get divorced. Later, after we finish eating barbecue, I'll personally take you shopping at the mall to properly upgrade your combat gear. Shenruoxi smiled, treating Yunying as her emotional pillar. Hearing her guarantee that there wouldn't be a divorce, her heart finally felt much lighter. She was inwardly calculating what this so-called gear upgrade meant. Well, I'll just wait and see when the time comes. Standing in front of a high-end boutique, Shenruoxi's voice started to tremble. The clothes sold in here. Can we really go in and look? If someone catches us, won't I look completely weird? Yunying, on the other hand, was completely unfazed. She grabbed her wrist and dragged her straight into the store. Weren't you just messaging me on WeChat yesterday, crying about how your honey trap failed again? It's definitely because your look is too bland. Your gear just isn't top tier enough for this match. Let your big sis here personally inspect and style you. This isn't really appropriate, is it? Although Shenruoxi's words were full of hesitation, her legs were incredibly honest as she followed Yunying toward the sexiest designs on display. I'm never divorcing my hubby. I worked so hard to win over my dream guy and marry him. Even if you beat me to death, I'd never let go. This business trip was much harder than I imagined, because the number of partners I had to persuade and coordinate with was simply too high. The itinerary, originally planned for 3 days, was dragged out to nearly a full week. The endless drinking banquets turned my stomach upside down. I almost ended up in the hospital with a bleeding ulcer. Fortunately, in the end, I managed to finalize a few key partnership agreements. Thinking back to my 3-day promise to Shenruoxi, I had no choice but to helplessly push back my return date time and time again. In the past, when I went on business trips, she never actively checked up on what I was doing. But this time, ever since I broke my promise and called home to apologize, she actually started, every single day, sending me good morning and good night texts. Even though the words seemed a bit dry, I could clearly feel that she rarely took the initiative to do things to please me like this. Yet it made me, in a foreign land, feel an indescribable warmth. Does me sending you these rambling messages every day bother you while you're discussing business with clients? If you find it annoying, I won't send them anymore. Absolutely not. I find them really interesting. Seeing, though, everyday things you send me while I'm stuck entertaining clients at the dinner table makes me feel a lot less frustrated. Even though her text messages still maintained a polite coldness, she was willing to share with me increasingly rich fragments of her life. From a brilliant sunset by the road, to a tabby cat dozing on the lab windowsill, and even official matters at the university, or the new dishes launched at the cafeteria today. It was obvious that I had been swept up in work for a whole week, so busy I had to squeeze in time just to take a sip of water. But I could feel very clearly that these short 7 days were even more than the past 2 years. We had lived together as husband and wife. added together, we were much more intimate and close. A few days later, I finally dragged my exhausted body onto the flight back home. To create an unexpected surprise, I didn't tell Shen Ruoxi in advance or send her my flight number on WeChat. I really wanted to see, when I suddenly appeared right in front of her, what kind of interesting expression would show up on that beautiful, always cold face of hers. After leaving the airport, I didn't have the driver take me back to the company. Instead, I took a taxi straight to the lab building at Jingdu University. Right now, I was standing outside the frosted glass door of the lab. Looking through the gap in the partially drawn blinds, I could see very clearly Shen Ruoxi maintaining that exquisite, peerless ice goddess look, facing 4 students who were so terrified they were dead silent. She was giving them a severe dressing down. Those 4 students didn't look much younger than her, but under the sheer authority and pressure of her powerful aura, every single one of them was as meek as an elementary schooler who had made a mistake. This is the last time I will tolerate such a rookie mistake. If you can handle this data, then calm down and do it right. But if you feel you lack the capability, then write a report and request a change of advisor immediately. If you feel that following me is too much pressure, but you can't bring yourselves to say it, I don't mind stepping up personally to negotiate with the department heads. This was the first time I had ever seen her speak in such a cold and strict tone. In the past, at home, even though Shin Ruoxi seemed to always carry an arrogant, unapproachable demeanor, the moment she opened her mouth, her tone would always unconsciously carry a subtle, hard-to-detect softness and gentleness. I quietly observed her through the glass door, and a ridiculous thought suddenly popped into my head. Maybe when it comes to cold-type women, I'm not entirely uninterested after all, just like Song Jizhong said. For instance, the one wearing that pristine white lab coat right now. In her field of expertise, her aura radiated powerfully. A Shin Ruoxi who confidently took charge of everything, always exuded a fatal attraction that makes it impossible to look away. The male student being scolded, Qin Xuan had kept his head down the whole time. His eyes unintentionally flickered over and saw me standing outside the door. He was so surprised that he couldn't help but stare. Qin Xuan, where are your eyes wandering? Are the experiment results you need posted on the window outside? Shen Ruoxi snapped loudly. Following Qin Xuan's gaze, she turned her head. The moment her eyes met mine, the icy look in them instantly melted away. A flash of utter astonishment crossed her face. It's my darling husband, why is he back so early? Did he come all the way here just to pick me up from work? Oh my god, the way I was just scolding that student, didn't I look like a total shrew? My darling husband is definitely going to misunderstand. He'll think I'm some hot-tempered, vicious woman. But I'm not vicious at all. Normally, I'm as gentle as water. It's all these useless students' fault for causing so much trouble. They've completely ruined the image I worked so hard to build. Not counting that brief meeting. On the morning he left for his business trip, it has been exactly 168 hours, 10,180 minutes, 604,800 seconds since I last saw my darling husband. I really, really miss him. I just want to throw myself into his arms. Word by word, the 2 sickeningly sweet words, darling husband, echoed in my mind. It truly made my ears burn. But I couldn't stop the corners of my mouth from curling up. Damn it, I think I'm being won over by this straightforwardness and this intense inner voice of hers. She's got me wrapped around her finger. I smiled and nodded at Shen Ruoxi. Then I mouthed the words, telling her to continue with her work. But with a special observer like me here, how could Shen Ruoxi possibly have the focus to continue reprimanding her students? But to maintain her authority as a lecturer, she could only force herself to keep a stern expression. She pretended to be calm and delivered a final warning to the 4 students before her. The critical flaws I pointed out to you all today. If you make the same mistakes in your next report, then you don't need to come to this lab anymore. Let's not waste each other's time. After speaking, she waved her hand impatiently, signaling for this unlucky bunch to get lost. The 4 students felt like they'd been granted a royal pardon. As they fled the lab, they all shot a look toward me standing by the door. They had seen it very clearly just now. Their advisor, the great professor who was always cold and emotionless. The moment she saw this strange man, the terrifyingly low pressure surrounding her vanished without a trace in an instant. Faced with their curious stares, I acted completely unfazed. I even gave them a friendly nod. If you guys don't want to leave, I can ask Professor Shen to assign you a few more lab tasks. I teased them with a smile. The moment the four of them heard that, they were scared out of their wits. They quickly gathered their things and bolted as if their lives depended on it. Shenruoxi quickly took off her lab coat. With hurried steps, she pushed open the door and walked out. When she finally stood steadily before me, a smile had already appeared on her face, a perfectly appropriate, faint smile. Her voice carried a hint of apology. I'm so sorry to have kept you waiting out here for so long. Did you come back to the university today? To visit Professor Lin and Professor Li? No, I came specifically to pick up my wife from work. And maybe grab some dinner together. I looked at her quietly. My gaze was gentle. I'm sorry, I broke our original plan. The trip was supposed to be 3 days, but it got delayed, and I only just got back. When the back of my hand unintentionally brushed against her cheek, Shenruoxi's heart seemed to skip a beat. The usual chirping in her mind, that incessant stream of chatter, fell silent in that instant. Oh no, it's happening again. Just that one tiny, insignificant gesture, and I feel like I'm hopelessly falling in love with my husband all over again. This must be the 999th time I've fallen head over heels for him. Just one more time, and it'll be an even 1,000. But how long is he going to wait before he's willing to give me even a little bit of affection? This time, her passionate inner voice was tinged with a raw intensity for the first time. It was faint, yet carried a bitterness and sorrow that couldn't be ignored. My heart suddenly clenched. I suddenly realized with profound clarity that I had truly missed too much. It was time to cast aside all my prejudices, to get to know her all over again, and to truly love the woman standing before me. As dusk fell, Shenruoxi and I walked shoulder to shoulder, strolling through the university campus. On a tree-lined path covered in fallen leaves, from an outsider's perspective, we were a perfect couple, a picture of serene beauty. But that was just on the surface. In reality, my brain was enduring a relentless brainwashing from Ruoxi's inner monologue. She was just so incredibly talkative, and those bold, incredibly shameless words just kept pouring out like a flood. I was blushing all the way down to my neck when I heard her seriously contemplating in her head whether she should switch to a different secret weapon tonight as she prepared to try her honey trap plan again. I really couldn't hold it in any longer. I tilted my head and gave her a long, deep look. The orange light of the sunset rested gently on the side of her face, making her flawless, delicate features seem as if they were coated in a layer of warm light. The bone-deep exhaustion that had built up from all the business meetings seemed in that moment to have been blown away by the gentle breeze. Seeing that it was time for dinner, I took the initiative to break the silence between us. Is there anything in particular you'd like to eat tonight? At that moment, Shenruoxi had already told herself in her head no less than 100 times that she had to take her husband out for barbecue. It was a chance to show off a little, her grilling skills befitting a good and virtuous wife. But faced with my question, she just gave me a nonchalant glance and asked back in her standard cool tone. It's up to you. What do you want to eat? What do you want to eat? Shenruoxi, are you out of your mind? Why didn't you just say you wanted barbecue? Barbecue? It's barbecue. My darling husband actually asked for my opinion, and I'm still here trying to play the cool girl. Didn't I swear I wouldn't pretend anymore? I really want to just slap myself a couple of times. I tried to suppress a smile. I deliberately played along with her. If there's nothing you're craving, then I'll make the arrangements. There's a barbecue place nearby that's supposed to be pretty good. How about we go there? As long as you're the one choosing, I'm fine with anything. Her expression remained calm, but inside she was screaming, "Ah! This is what it means to be on the same wavelength. My darling husband and I are totally in sync. What kind of amazing, lucky day is this?" I'm so happy I could just explode, infected by her joyful emotions. My own mood lifted as well. So I decided to start a conversation. Back at the lab door just now, I saw you scolding your students pretty harshly. Did they make some kind of fundamental mistake to make you that furious? Shenruoxi, who had been happily humming to herself internally, suddenly stopped. Actually, it was just a very basic data experiment. I had already guided them step by step. I demonstrated the important steps countless times. I practically wrote out the conclusion for them. But what happened? They started doubting a variable that I designed. They didn't even bother to tell me beforehand and arbitrarily changed the parameters. In the end, it caused the entire data chain to completely collapse. Honestly, in academia, having a skeptical attitude is a good thing. But if you have doubts, shouldn't your first reaction be to verify them rigorously? But no, they just had to be arrogant. They stubbornly insisted that their own thinking was correct. They didn't even bother to do the most basic calculations to check. And this isn't the first time they've tried to be clever like this. The results from the previous times already slapped them hard across the face, proving that my method was the most optimal one. Oh no, oh no. My darling husband just witnessed me scolding someone like a total shrew. Will he think that I'm some kind of violent maniac deep down? Will he be completely disappointed in the perfect image he had of me? I swear, I'm not usually this fierce at all. I'm gentler than a little lamb. Although I myself have no interest in all that dry academic research, I have zero interest. But since both my parents are researchers at this university, I've been exposed to it since I was a child. So I can somewhat understand his feeling of helplessness, that hating iron for not becoming steel frustration. I'm sorry, darling. Telling you all this trivial stuff from the lab, does it sound really dry and boring? My life is already so narrow and monotonous. Besides guiding students with their experiments, all I do is bury my head in research papers. Am I just like a glass of plain water? A dull and uninteresting woman? No wonder my darling husband, even after marrying me, still can't bring himself to like me. Hearing the self-doubt in her heart, I stopped walking. With a very serious look and tone, I looked deep into her eyes. I solemnly explained that it wasn't boring at all. On the contrary, I was listening very intently. Even though I don't understand your sophisticated field, as long as it's something related to you, even the smallest details or the most trivial matters, I will always care about them immensely. Hearing me say that, Shenruoxi's eyes instantly lit up with a look of astonishment. This was the first time I had felt so directly when a person is truly happy from the bottom of their heart. Then in their eyes, it truly sparkles like 1,000 stars, radiating a brilliant light. So every emotional shift he has when facing me has always been this passionate and pure. It's just that for the past 2 years, someone as blind as me never truly calmed down to look at him closely. Not far away, we arrived just outside the school gates, at that crowded BBQ joint. While ordering, Shenruoxi seemingly relieved of a huge mental burden. Thanks to my recent confession, assertively ordered several plates of her usual favorite dishes. When the sizzling plates of fatty meat were brought to the table, an enthusiastic waiter approached. He asked if we needed help grilling the meat. Shenruoxi declined without a second thought. No need to trouble yourself. Thanks, but we can handle it ourselves. Last time I walked past another teacher's table, I saw a husband taking his wife out for barbecue. It was the wife who grilled the fragrant meat and served it to her husband. If other husbands get to enjoy such heavenly treatment, my husband, Shenruoxi's man, definitely won't miss out. Hearing her bizarre train of thought, I almost couldn't hold back my laughter. Even if she wanted to copy others and show off our affection, it should be the man, me, serving her instead. But the truth proved that I had severely overestimated her hands-on skills. A dignified university professor like her obviously knew absolutely nothing about this kind of heavy, smoky work. Looking at her fair, jade-like hands meant only for holding pens and doing experiments, about to touch the scorching metal grill pan. I panicked and reacted instantly, grabbing her wrist. But no matter how fast my reflexes were, the back of her hand still got burned by the edge of the pan, leaving a glaring red mark. He held my hand. We've been married for 2 years, and hubby finally took the initiative to hold my little hand. If hubby were to dominantly kiss me right now, I'd die happy. Is the burn bad? Sit here and wait for me. I'll go ask the boss for some burn ointment. If the shop doesn't have any, I'll run to the pharmacy next door to buy some. His brows were tightly furrowed, his voice filled with urgent concern. It's fine. You don't have to go through all that trouble. Actually, this little scratch doesn't hurt at all. Shenruoxi, like a child who had done something wrong, timidly and carefully pulled her hand back. The reason she wanted to pull her hand away wasn't because she hated my touch, but because being stared at by my worried, caring eyes made her incredibly shy. She was truly embarrassed to the extreme. Half her body went numb, draining all her strength. Don't be fooled by how fast she drives in her head. Once she's back in reality, her skin is thinner than paper. Even if I couldn't hear her inner screaming right now, just looking at her face, so red it looked like it was bleeding, was enough to guess her embarrassment. So I naturally let go of her wrist, but my anxious gaze remained fixed on the red mark on the back of her hand. Finally, I pressed the service bell on the table. Luckily, this barbecue joint always kept burn ointment on hand. Shenruoxi took the tube of ointment, lowered her head, and clumsily dabbed it onto her wound. When the waiter came over again to ask if we needed help flipping the meat, she was so embarrassed she couldn't even lift her head, completely lacking the courage to speak up and decline. I waved the waiter off, signaling him to attend to other things, and picked up the long tongs from the table myself. With incredibly skillful movements on the grill, I flipped the slices of pork belly back and forth. Watching my smooth, flowing technique, Ruoxi stared in absolute awe. It wasn't until I picked up a perfectly seared piece of pork belly, sizzling with fat, and placed it into the dipping bowl in front of her that she snapped out of her daze. Regaining her senses, she whispered in amazement, "Oh my God, how are you so good at this?" Back when I was studying abroad, to earn living expenses, I worked at a local barbecue joint for a whole month straight. My pockets were completely empty back then, so I had to bite the bullet and look for part-time jobs everywhere. Was it because Professor Lin and Professor Lee teamed up to cut off your allowance, forcing you to change majors and focus on academic research during that incident? Shenruoxi blurted out. Even if I starved to death, I would absolutely never compromise and go back to that academic path. But wait, how did you know about that? I paused slightly and raised an eyebrow. That happened during my freshman year abroad. Since it was so long ago, and after returning home, I rarely mentioned it to anyone. The number of people who knew about this old story could be counted on one hand. Shenruoxi suddenly panicked. It was entirely because the atmosphere was so good just now that she completely let her guard down, and in a moment of carelessness, she let her deeply buried secret slip out. She originally planned to pin all the blame on that busybody President Ji Zhang, but when she met my eyes, which were so deep they seemed to see right through her, she fell silent for a moment and finally chose to confess the truth to me. I used to secretly follow your social media accounts when you were abroad. Actually, when you were a freshman, I had already gone abroad to study too. At the time, I happened to be a sophomore at another university, even though I already knew my wife had an exceptionally high IQ and was a rare genius. Hearing Ruoxi say this still made me gasp in genuine astonishment. You really are outstanding, far beyond what I ever knew about you. Being praised directly by the husband she had longed for, Shenruoxi's cheeks uncontrollably flushed pink once again. Actually, before going abroad, we had already met. It's just that back then, you thought, I was a lost elementary school student and even enthusiastically took me to the police station. Did that really happen? I couldn't quite believe it. I really hadn't hit my growth spurt back then. Even though I looked tiny, I had already skipped grades all the way to 9th grade. It was just a random good deed you did in passing. A busy guy like you wouldn't possibly remember such a trivial thing. Seeing my bewildered expression, Shenruoxi couldn't hide the disappointment in her eyes, but she quickly cheered up and roughly helped me piece together the context of that time. I remember that year, during the first half of the semester, one of the teaching buildings in our middle school campus was scaffolded for maintenance. So, our 9th grade honors class was temporarily relocated to your high school teaching building for classes. Mentioning the old news about the teaching building undergoing major renovations, my dusty memories were finally awakened. Taking a glance, I looked up and down at Shenruoxi's tall figure, alluring curves, and the intellectual, mature aura radiating from her. I temporarily couldn't associate her at all with an elementary school kiddo from my memories back then. The contrast between then and now was simply too drastic. Back then, I skipped 2 grades to get there, and I was indeed a late bloomer compared to my peers. Actually, at that time, my height really wasn't much different from a 5th or 6th grader, so I can't entirely blame you for mistaking me back then. She smiled awkwardly. Then you must have been a super adorable elementary schooler back then, the kind that melts people's hearts just by looking at you. Shenruoxi froze. Those clear eyes stared blankly at me. Mom, when I was young, I always especially yearned to have a sweet, adorable little sister. If I really took the initiative back then to take you to the police station, the only reason must have been because you looked so pitifully cute. If it were any other brat with my arrogant and reckless attitude at that age, I wouldn't have bothered meddling in other people's business. The important thing was his eyes. His gaze and brows were brimming with a gentle smile. Looking closely now, I can still see in your features the shadow of that adorable little girl from back then. Now that you've grown into such a breathtaking beauty, you must have been the type of child everyone wanted to pamper in the palm of their hands. A true little darling. Who the hell wants to be your damn little sister? I want to stand righteously by your side and walk with you for the rest of our lives. I was just giving a random example. I wasn't planning on bringing home a little ancestor out of nowhere. Ruoxi looked at him, her face flushing red. From shyness and secret joy, I suddenly feel like just living these peaceful days by his side seems like an absolutely perfect idea. Up until this very moment, I finally, completely understood the whole story. It turns out my wife, the person she hid deep in her heart, secretly yearning for day and night, was this white moonlight male god all along. It was actually me. Shenruoxi was still blaming herself for her slip of the tongue earlier, exposing all her secrets, feeling incredibly regretful. Her eyes darted around frantically, absolutely not daring to look me in the eye. I picked up the teapot and poured her a full cup of warm barley tea. Then, using an incredibly gentle tone, but packed with lethal impact, I said, "Actually, when you asked Yunying to scout out my standards for a partner, the information you got had a fatal flaw. In my entire life, I, Lu Jinyan, have never liked the aloof, intellectual, ice beauty type. The aloof, intellectual, ice beauty type." Hearing this, Shenroxi's already large eyes suddenly widened in shock. Her complexion paled at a visible rate, turning completely white in the blink of an eye. "I'm dead! I'm dead! I'm dead! He knows everything. He saw right through me, knowing that for the past 2 years. I've just been acting. He knows it all, so in his eyes, I've just been a dancing clown all this time. Then what kind of girls do you actually like?" she asked, trembling. I honestly hadn't thought much about it before, but over the past 2 days, I think I've suddenly found the feeling. Why don't you try dropping the disguise and show me your truest self? No rush. We're already married. We have a long road ahead of us, and we'll be spending the rest of our lives together. On the drive home, after dinner, Shenruoxi's mind was like an endless loop machine, flooded with scrolling comments. Hubby completely saw through my tricks. He knows this aloof, high-class facade of mine is all just an act. Oh god, I really am a ridiculous clown, but looking at it from another angle, hubby is seriously way too smart and sharp to think he actually saw right through me. Sitting in the driver's seat, I couldn't hide the smile on my face since getting in the car. I realized that just being next to Shen Ruoxi, even if we did nothing at all, that bone-deep exhaustion would be miraculously healed. I started looking forward immensely to when she completely takes off that mask and returns to her true nature. Just how vibrant and lively would she be? We're home, get some good rest. I was about to, as usual, head upstairs to my master bedroom when Shinruoxi suddenly called out to me from behind. Actually, I'm not always acting on purpose. When I'm at school facing those grad students, I really am that strict and rigid. It's just that around the people closest to me, my personality is a bit more playful, and I like to act a little spoiled. I was always afraid you'd hate this real side of me. If I didn't test the waters myself, how would I know for sure that you wouldn't like it? I turned around and gave her an encouraging look. Then I'll take a leap of faith and give it a try. The truth was something I never could have expected in a million years. Professor Gu's capacity for action was actually this strong. Early the next morning, as soon as I stepped out of my bedroom, I smelled an incredibly enticing aroma of food. Piping hot dishes were already laid out on the dining table, an exquisite breakfast with both meat and veggies. Next to it was a ceramic mug pressing down on a pink, heart-shaped sticky note. "Good morning, my dear hubby. I have back-to-back classes this morning, so I'm heading to school to clock in first. If you wake up late and the breakfast gets cold, make sure you put it in the microwave and heat it up before eating. Be careful not to get a stomachache." After enjoying my dear wife's breakfast of love, I drove to the company in high spirits. By noon, when work was so busy, I could barely catch my breath. I received another check-in call from Shen Ruoxi. She said she had personally made a bento box of love and wanted to deliver it to my office herself. Not long after hanging up, Shen Ruoxi, carrying a thermos lunchbox, appeared like a spring breeze. Outside my office's glass door, I heard from the staff that earlier in the first-floor lobby, while being surrounded by a crowd of subordinates, she maintained her elegant and dignified demeanor, giving off the aura of an untouchable, high-class goddess. But the moment she stepped into my private territory, the ice on her face instantly melted away, replaced by a sweet smile that practically overflowed from her face. Those sparkling peach blossom eyes just stared straight at me, looking so silly yet so adorable that it made me want to pinch her cheeks. Once I finished handling the most urgent emails on hand, the two of us sat shoulder to shoulder, nestled on the spacious leather sofa, ready to start enjoying our lunch. I really couldn't tell, Professor Gu, that these hands of yours, which seem like they've never done a day of hard work, actually possess such amazing cooking skills. I didn't hold back my praise. For the past 2 years, because of our busy jobs, we spent more time apart than together and had absolutely no energy to cook at home. The few times we did have our meals together, we just ate casually at restaurants outside. Shen Roxy gently explained. Back then, I was sent abroad when I was very young. In a foreign land, I had to figure out all my survival skills on my own. The moment I came of age, my mom immediately bought a plane ticket back home to enjoy her life, completely ignoring whether I lived or died. To keep myself from being poisoned by the disastrous food abroad, I had no choice but to bite the bullet and learn to cook myself.
I suddenly realized and deeply felt that. Ever since the BBQ dinner last night, after everything was laid out in the open, Shenruoxi seemed to have dropped 1,000-pound weight. She no longer kept up that cold, distant facade. She was actually a girl who loved to smile. Whenever she smiled, 2 faint dimples would appear at the corners of her mouth, making her look several years younger than her actual age. She looked exactly like an innocent little girl who hadn't even left school yet. After we were full, even though Shen Ruoxi was 100,000 times reluctant in her heart, wishing she could just take root on my sofa and never leave, her movements while cleaning up the battlefield and washing the dishes were incredibly swift, without a hint of clumsiness. Seeing this, I quickly stood up to lend a hand. While fighting over the thermos box, the backs of our hands unexpectedly brushed against each other. As if pricked by a needle, Shen Ruoxi's hand movements suddenly froze. She timidly looked up at me. I'm being so uselessly shy again. Finally, I couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. Wifey, do you know how you look right now? You're seriously way too adorable. Unexpectedly receiving such a straightforward compliment from me, Shen Ruoxi bit her lower lip tightly, her eyes darting everywhere, completely lacking the courage to look me in the eye. Her small face flushed hot at a visible rate, getting redder by the second. I suddenly felt the urge to keep teasing her. I've already changed how I address you and called you wifey. Following our nation's fine traditional virtues, shouldn't you return the favor a little? Let me hear you call me hubby. I quietly looked at her, at those perfectly even pearly white teeth. She bit down on her full lower lip, her entire face turning as red as a ripe tomato. She was speechless for what felt like an eternity, unable to utter a single word. I didn't plan on pushing her too hard, so I decided to let it go. I turned and sat down at my desk, opened the drawer, and took out the high-end burn cream I had specifically asked my assistant to buy from the pharmacy this morning. Does the burn from last night still hurt? Seeing that I wasn't going to dwell on that embarrassing topic, a wave of something washed over the interrogated Shen Ruoxi. It was hard to tell if it was the relief of a narrow escape or a pang of disappointment and regret. After all, in the secret world of her heart, she had already called him honey, no less than thousands, even tens of thousands of times. But when it came time to actually face him and say it out loud, her throat felt like it was glued shut. She couldn't make a sound. These hands of yours are meant for handling precise instruments in the lab. How can you be so clumsy with housework? Here, give me your hand. Let me put some more medicine on it so it heals faster. What surprised me was, Shenru Oxy didn't refuse. It was as if she had just made some monumental decision. Blinking her big, watery eyes, she carefully extended her injured hand toward me. My right hand is very precious. It's a bit awkward to apply the ointment myself with my left hand. Lu Jinwu, could you help me put it on? I lowered my gaze, staring at the hand, so soft and pale, offered right in front of me. I almost couldn't stop myself from exposing her lie right then and there. Last night at the barbecue place, she clearly used her left hand to apply the medicine, and she was incredibly nimble with it too. But in the end, I didn't say anything. I reached out my large, warm hand and gently took her small, slightly cold one. She stared at me, her clear, black and white eyes wide open, filled with anticipation. She didn't even blink. Whoa, my husband's palm is so hot, I feel like my hand is going to melt in his. Sure enough, during the short time I was helping her apply the medicine, my ears were once again subjected to a relentless surround sound like bombardment. From intertwined fingers to a passionate French kiss, and even a vacation to a tropical island. Having my darling husband wear swim trunks and help me apply sunscreen all over my body. Her soaring train of thought was faster and more powerful than a voice-activated missile. I'm such a little minx. Lu Jinwoo struggled to maintain a calm expression, as if nothing was happening. With intense focus, he carefully helped her spread the ointment evenly. By now, Shen Ruoxi's breathing had become ragged. Her face was so flushed, it looked like it could start bleeding any second. He looked at a small patch on the back of her hand that was still slightly red. Her voice was as quiet as a mosquito's buzz. "It's a good thing you treated it so quickly last night. That's why it didn't blister today." Lu Jinwoo said nothing. He just very naturally lifted her hand to his lips. Keeping a safe distance, he faced the red spot with the ointment on it and gently blew. The warm breath, carrying his body heat, mingled with the slightly cool ointment, creating a strange, tingling sensation. "My husband is kissing my hand. Does this count as an indirect kiss? I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm just used to doing that at home. I didn't mean to be so forward." I looked at her calm expression. She feigned remorse, assuring me it was nothing. "Well, I'll be going then," she stammered out. Hearing her, I smoothly stood up straight, picking up the cloth bag with her lunchbox. "Let me walk you downstairs. The company has a high-level summary meeting this afternoon. It's going to be a long one, so I probably can't leave right away, which means I can't drive you home myself." Shen Ruoxi was like a sweet, obedient little wife, walking quietly beside me. Surprisingly, her usually noisy inner voice was now unusually quiet. The company I run is in a phase of rapid growth. While its scale isn't top tier yet, it's still a formidable force. Around noon, the staff should be slumped over their desks, enjoying their precious, sacred lunch break. But not today. When I pushed open the glass door of the CEO's office, I was shocked to find the open-plan office area outside was completely full. Every single one of them looked like they were on steroids, eyes glued to their computer screens. I was a little speechless, a corner of my mouth twitching. These guys during the regular Monday morning meetings, I've never seen them this motivated. Shen Ruoxi was clearly flustered by the 100 or so people staring at her in unison. This visual salute made her dizzy. Her steps faltered a bit. She was extremely flustered right now. "Oh my God, are all of my husband's employees so dedicated to their work? Why are they all sneaking glances at us? Do they think that the great CEO and I are a match made in heaven? If I'd known it was going to be such a big scene today before I left the house, I would have changed into that high-end dress. What a mistake, a huge mistake. But it's okay, I'm still not used to this whole making a public appearance thing. After I visit him at work a few more times, I'll get used to it. If I bring him lunch every day, I wonder if my darling husband will think I'm being a bother. He didn't tell me not to come just now, which means he tacitly agreed? Perfect. I'm so happy we've decided on this." First, I glanced at the professor whose inner world was rich enough to compete for an Oscar. Then I casually said, "Let's go." Don't mind them. These gossips are probably just curious about what the boss's wife looks like. As I spoke, I very naturally raised my right hand and slowly wrapped it around her waist. To keep from startling her or making her uncomfortable, I deliberately left a small gap. I didn't press right up against her. The moment I made that move, her steps faltered. Then, she took half a step back, like a little bird flying right into my arms. She actively leaned into my embrace. Holding the beauty in my arms, almost her entire body weight was leaning on me. The warmth of her body transferred to me through the thin layer of her clothes. Yes, I finally got to hug her. My husband is such a gentleman. This frustratingly perfect sense of boundaries is killing me. But that's okay. If the mountain won't come to me, then I'll go to the mountain. When it's time to make a move, you have to make a move. Haha. From that little bump just now, I can tell my husband's six-pack is super firm. Talk about the golden ratio. I wonder when I'll be able to openly strip him down and get a good feel. Even if I can't touch, getting to feast my eyes like this is amazing too. The two of us maintained that intimate, ambiguous embrace all the way to the elevator. "Did you drive here?" "Yes, I drove myself. I can just drive myself back later." Standing outside the building's glass revolving doors, I watched until her car merged into the flow of traffic, disappearing completely at the end of the street. Only then did I turn around, happily heading back upstairs to continue tackling the mountain of paperwork. Meanwhile, on the other side, after leaving my company, Shen Ruoxi didn't drive straight home. Instead, she made a sharp turn and sped straight to her best friend Yun Ying's territory. The things she had spent a fortune on last night, those seductive battle armors that would make anyone blush and their heart race, were still lying pathetically, gathering dust in the deepest corner of her closet. She simply couldn't find the right opportunity to deploy them. When it came to romance, she was a complete novice, a blank slate.
Right now, she desperately needed a seasoned master strategist to come up with a plan for her. Yun Ying was a bona fide heiress. Her family was well off, so she had absolutely no need to slave away at a 9-to-5 job for a meager salary. Usually in her free time, she would review cosmetics on social media platforms or try out famous restaurants. She was actually an influencer with hundreds of thousands of followers. Miss Ruoxi, Miss Yun Ying is waiting for you at the usual spot. A familiar staff member warmly pointed the way. Thanks, well, if it isn't our VIP, what can I get for our great beauty today? It's so hot out. Did you just come from somewhere fun? Yun Ying sipped her cold fruit juice, her legs crossed. Wow, you're practically a psychic. How did you know I just came from my husband's company after having lunch with him? I just swung by to see you. Shen Ruoxi smiled sweetly. No coffee for me, thanks. Before I left the house, my husband had just brewed me some wellness tea to bring along. All right, so that's how it is. You, the great Miss Xin, deliberately came all the way here today just to rub your happiness in my face to show off, huh? Yun Ying rolled her eyes dramatically. But you know, I find it really strange. That Lu Jinwu guy, what kind of cultivation is he practicing to have such insane self-control? He's been married to you for 2 years, with a wife as beautiful as a flower, so gorgeous and charming, right by his side, and he can still hold himself back. And he's playing this pure, platonic love game with you. One of these days, I'm going to have to grab Zhang Jizhong and interrogate him properly. I need to ask if his buddy has some kind of problem. Does he have some sort of unspeakable problem? Those bros of yours aren't reliable at all either. You've been married for 2 years, and you're still doing this platonic love thing? You guys probably barely even hold hands on a normal day, huh? If that doesn't work, just go hard and force the issue. Just seal the deal first and figure the rest out later. Honestly, I've secretly been planning to do exactly that. Shen Roxy shyly fiddled with the hem of her shirt. But Lu Jinyan, I think he's just too restrained and respects me too much. Pfft. You call that respect? That's the biggest joke in the world. Having a juicy piece of meat dangled right in front of his mouth every single day, and he still manages to hold back from taking a bite? If that's not impotent, then what is it? You've got the looks. You've got the body. As for IQ, well, let's just not talk about that. Talk nonsense. My hubby is definitely not weak. I won't allow you to use those words to slander him ever again. Shen Ruoxi stomped her feet in a panic. All right. My bad. I take back all the nonsense I just said. Okay, I really have no filter. Please don't take it to heart. Yuan hurriedly raised her hands in surrender. Come here, gorgeous. Let me show you something. Some truly useful adult educational materials right here. I think if you want to devour him, you still need to find a perfectly justifiable excuse. Those flashy battle outfits you bought last time, just leave them in the closet to gather dust for now. If you just sit around waiting dryly like this, you'll never be able to take the initiative. Next month happens to be your university's summer break. Just use celebrating the holidays as an excuse, and drag him out for a vacation, no matter what. When the time comes, just book a room with a large double bed. A lone man and a lone woman sharing a single room. Are you still worried you won't find a chance to make your move? But my birthday is in September, and Lu Jinyan's birthday is in March. That's still a long way off. Besides, summer break is exactly when his company is in its busiest peak season of the year. Where would he find the time to travel with me? Shen Ruoxi felt a bit discouraged. Then just go all out and be direct. Take the offensive. Express your true feelings a bit more boldly. Be a little more direct. Completely tear down that damn barrier between the two of you. All right. Then hurry up and give me a plan. What exactly should I do so I don't come off as too ridiculous and catch up on the progress we missed during his last business trip? I had been spinning like a top at the company for days on end. Busy from dawn till dusk. I didn't even have time to go home for dinner. I had to ask my assistant to order takeout. Right to the office, and scarfed it down with a few senior managers who were also working overtime. Finally, when I signed my name, on the last urgent document, the clock on the wall already pointed past 8 p.m. However, the office area outside was still brightly lit. Most of the employees were still working hard into the night. If I had encountered this situation in the past, around this time, I would have definitely just gone with the flow, casually grabbed the stack of non-urgent memos from the corner of my desk and finished dealing with them before heading home. But I really couldn't take it anymore. My heart was a tangled mess. I just couldn't calm down. My mind kept replaying the entire scene from noon. Shen Ruoxi carrying a thermos lunchbox, like a blooming sunflower, the image of her smiling radiantly as she walked toward me. Finally, I decisively shut my laptop and decided to clock out and go home. After walking out of the company building and getting into the driver's seat, I gripped the steering wheel, hesitating for a moment. Ultimately, I still pressed the call button and called Shen Ruoxi. Almost the exact moment the first ring sounded, the call connected. "Do you want to grab something to eat tonight? I'm almost home, but I'm not really feeling hungry right now. If I just bluntly reject this offer, wouldn't that mean I'd have no excuse tonight? To go out for a late-night stroll and snack with my hubby? That's fine. If you're not hungry, you can just keep me company. Wait for me to get home and change clothes, and then we can go for a walk together." Okay, then I'll be good and wait for you at home." After hanging up, I accidentally glanced at the rearview mirror in the car. The person in there, the man grinning from ear to ear, smiling like an absolute idiot, falling in love for the first time. I shook my head helplessly. Lu Jinyan. Oh, Lu Jinyan. Acting like you haven't seen a woman in 8 lifetimes. You're truly hopeless. Beyond saving, the car sped down the road. Before long, I had parked neatly in my own garage. The moment I pushed the door open and stepped inside, I immediately saw her. Shen Roxy, who had been sitting properly on the living room sofa, suddenly bounced up like she was on springs. "You're finally back!" Her eyes curved into a smile. "I'm home." She blinked her big, bright, sparkling eyes at me, flashing a perfect, heart-meltingly sweet smile. "You're all sweaty? Why don't you go take a shower first? It's still early anyway." The next second, her inner voice rang out with unconcealable excitement. "Ta-da! Look at this! The girl next door outfit I specially changed into for tonight. With this energetic look, I wonder if hubby will take the bait." Hearing her narcissistic inner thoughts, the smile on my lips just kept growing wider. Is the ass in the living room set too low? Are you cold? I tossed aside any thought of boundaries, reaching out incredibly naturally to gently ruffle her messy hair. Shen Ruoxi had the feeling that her deepest, darkest secrets had been completely seen through by me. Faced with my sudden question, she shyly shook her head. "I think the temperature is just right. I actually just turned it up 2 degrees. I'm not cold at all. Then, I'll head upstairs first, to change into something more comfortable. I'll skip the shower for now, so you don't have to wait too long." After taking a few steps, I suddenly stopped and looked back at her deeply. "The outfit you went out of your way to pick today is truly stunning." After saying that, without lingering for even a second, I turned and walked up the wooden stairs. When I reached the second-floor hallway, I could still faintly hear from the living room below her suppressed squeal, like a startled groundhog. She was like a broken record, frantically repeating in her heart, "I can't believe hubby praised my beauty right to my face." That sheer joy was no different from a 3-year-old who just got some candy. Just a few minutes later, I had changed into a completely ordinary plain black short-sleeved t-shirt paired with dark blue jeans. When I came downstairs, I was surprised to find that Shen Ruoxi had also quickly changed into a different outfit. What was even more coincidental was that tonight, without planning it at all, we both chose a classic black and white style. No matter how you looked at it, we seemed like a couple wearing carefully coordinated matching outfits. "Have you thought about what you want to eat? It's pretty late. How about we go get some clay pot porridge?" In the newly built commercial district opposite our neighborhood, I heard a new Teochew porridge place just opened up. Apparently, the online reviews are really good. What's up? Do you often sneak out for midnight snacks by yourself? Actually, it's nothing special. It's just that sometimes when I'm in the school lab, measuring data late into the night, or at night, when I get hungry reading papers alone, I'll just run out and grab a quick bite. The summer night breeze blew gently, caressing us softly. The loose strands of hair fell by her ears. Shen Ruoxi and I walked shoulder to shoulder, completely at ease, strolling down the quiet summer night street. The night sky was truly accommodating. Just by looking up, you could see the deep, dark canvas, dotted with countless twinkling stars. Our fluttering hearts were just like that brilliant starry sky, bright and clear, in an incredibly good mood. All along the way, she pointed at the brightly lit shops along the street, enthusiastically introducing them to me as if she knew them by heart. Looking at her excited demeanor, for a moment, I suddenly recalled a scene from right after we registered our marriage. "By the way, do you want to go downstairs and grab a bite with me?" "Never mind, I still have a few reports I need to rush through and finish reviewing." "Go eat by yourself." The me back then was truly infuriatingly cold.
I didn't even bother to take my eyes off the computer screen to look at her for a few extra seconds. I couldn't even spare her that much. Now I turned my head, full of regret, and couldn't help but steal a few more glances at her. Noticing my gaze, she visibly paused for a moment, instinctively bringing the back of her hand up to wipe her cheek. "Why do you keep staring at me? Is there something on my face?" "No, I was just thinking. Growing up, you must have heard countless people praise your beauty, haven't you?" In just a few short minutes, Shen Ruoxi's face, once again, at a speed visible to the naked eye, flushed as red as a ripe apple. Her eyes darted around nervously, and she started to stutter. "What if you think I'm that pretty? Then could you hold this little hand of mine that doesn't know where to go?" She looked up at me with shimmering eyes, her gaze full of shyness. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz. "Getting to hold the hand of someone as beautiful as you? I guess I wouldn't be losing out, right? To be honest, my IQ isn't very high, and I don't have much deep romantic experience with women. I've always been afraid that if I move too fast, I'll scare you away. So from now on, while we're together, if you have any thoughts or desires, feel free to bring them up directly with me." As soon as the words left my mouth, our hands naturally intertwined, fingers locked tightly together. Feeling the warmth spreading from our palms, she was as happy as a child, boldly swinging our tightly clasped hands and tilting her head to give me a radiant smile. I originally thought she was immersed in a pink romantic bubble and had probably treated my heartfelt confession just now like wind passing through her ears. After all, looking at how flustered and shy she was just a moment ago, she was clearly so bewitched by my beauty that she didn't even know up from down anymore. But what completely caught me off guard was when we walked into that brightly lit porridge shop and had just settled into our seats by the window, her eyes immediately lit up, locking onto mine. "Since you generously promised just now that if I have any thoughts, I can just directly make a request, then I'm going to exercise my right now." I was completely mentally unprepared and just instinctively nodded. "All right, I'm all ears. Our parents keep nagging us, urging us to hurry up and have a baby, even though I really had shamelessly told her to just speak her mind, but she was being way too direct, opening her mouth just to discuss the progress of our baby-making plans. It was at this very moment that I deeply realized the biggest gap between Shen Ruoxi and me actually lay in her shockingly simple, straight-line way of thinking. This simplicity didn't mean she had a low IQ, but rather because she had buried herself in the ivory tower of laboratories since she was young. Such a purely academic environment compared to me, someone who had been rolling around in the business world for years, developing tact and worldly shrewdness, resulted in completely different philosophies on how to deal with people. Seeing me frozen like a statue, just sitting there motionless for a long time, Shinruoxi looked a bit confused and slightly tilted her head. Along with that adorably naive gesture, the little theater in her mind simultaneously began to play. Were the words I just said too blunt and aggressive? But this isn't something that needs to be beaten around the bush anyway. She paused for a moment, then, overcomplicating things, she threw in another sentence. "Don't tell me you forgot that we have to go back to our parents' house tomorrow for the family dinner. Don't tell me you completely tossed it to the back of your mind." We had been married for over 2 years, even though our relationship as husband and wife had always been as bland as water. Every month, even if the sky fell, we still had to go back to the Liu family estate together to have a reunion dinner with our parents. I can still manage that. I haven't forgotten. I always keep this in mind. Tomorrow afternoon, after I finish up with work, I'll come pick you up. I remember tomorrow afternoon, you don't have any classes to teach, right? Yeah, I have tomorrow afternoon off. I'm just giving you a heads up. When we go back to the old house tomorrow, 9 times out of 10, our parents are going to start dropping hints and pressuring us about having a baby again. Wow, hubby actually remembers my teaching schedule. So clearly, if you think about it, doesn't that mean he's always paying attention to me 24/7? Paying attention to me means I have a place in his heart. And if I'm in his heart, that proves he likes me. Ha 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 ha. I've already given him a heads up about this. When the time comes, if our parents bring it up again, they can't just blame my lack of a baby bump entirely on me for not trying hard enough. Before, we could use being busy with our careers as a shield, but now, this excuse definitely won't fly with the 2 elders even if you beat them to death. After hearing this inner monologue of hers, I belatedly realized the issue. A very serious matter. It turned out that the 2 elders
had long been bombarding her behind my back, pressuring her to have a baby. Yet over the past 2 years, I hadn't heard a single peep about it. This meant that all the pressure and nagging had been silently shouldered all alone by this silly girl, Shen Ruoxi. Right at that moment, the waiter brought over a pot of steaming hot seafood clay pot porridge and placed it on the table. Through the rising white steam, I watched Shen Ruoxi slightly lower her head and extremely politely whisper, "A thank you to the waiter." Sometimes I truly found it unbelievable. This girl in front of me looked so pure and harmless on the outside, but in reality, she was a little girl who desperately craved to be pampered. Deep in her bones, she possessed a resilience that ordinary people could hardly achieve, a gentleness taken to the absolute extreme. From now on, if our parents use carrying on the family line to bother you, just push it all directly onto me. Let them come directly to me to point fingers. Or you can just outright blame me. Just tell them that right now, I'm still not mentally prepared to be a father, and that I don't want kids. Hearing my firm words of protection, Shen Ruoxi was visibly stunned for a moment. Right after that, a shy, embarrassed smile appeared in the depths of her eyes. Actually, it's not as scary as you think. Our parents are all educated, reasonable people. They won't be unreasonable or overbearing. They just feel that since we've been married for 2 years, and there's still no sign of a baby bump, it's hard to avoid them getting a little anxious. They probably secretly guess every day when a block of dead wood like you will finally manage to successfully climb into your own wife's bed. These words were like a bolt of lightning from a clear blue sky, instantly causing whatever lingering feelings of guilt and heaviness swirling in my heart to vanish into thin air. I genuinely couldn't hold back and burst out laughing right on the spot. I raised my deep, dark eyes, staring with a meaningful smile at the person who was staring right back at me. Shen Ruoxi probably didn't expect me to suddenly look up and catch her gaze. She jumped in surprise, and immediately her fair face was dyed with a layer of pink. Her eyes uncontrollably darted toward the mottled night scenery outside the window. I remember you mentioning to me before that because you lived alone during your early years studying abroad, you became extremely particular about your personal privacy and space. Is that true? Was it because you were too young back then? At first, my parents came along as guardians to take care of me for a while. Later, as I gradually grew up and slowly adapted to an independent lifestyle abroad, he just let go and stopped caring. It was from that moment on that he developed the habit of sleeping in his own room. As he explained, his eyes were filled with a deep yearning, fixed on me without wavering for a second. Oh my God! Oh my God! My dear husband was doing just fine. So why did he suddenly steer the conversation this way? Oh, man, am I getting ahead of myself again? Is this just wishful thinking? I mean, it's true that I'm very territorial. I'm the type of person who needs her own space. But if this offer is coming from my dear husband himself, warmly inviting me to move into his master bedroom, then I guess it's not exactly unacceptable. After all, it's already so late. A little romantic daydreaming probably isn't against the law, right? My hubby is so gentle tonight, I could just melt. I just want to pack my bags right this second and move right in. Hearing the roller coaster of excitement and the ups and downs in her inner voice, the corner of my mouth lifted on its own. This highly respected senior professor, how is it that all day long, her head is filled with such high-speed thoughts? But this adorable contrast truly makes her more and more endearing the more I look at her. I stared at the girl in front of me, who was even now deep in an internal debate about which battle-ready nightgown she should wear to bed tonight. I suddenly spoke up. In that case, would you consider ending our separation and moving in to share a room with me? Please believe me, I have given this a great deal of thought, and I am extending this invitation to live together with the utmost seriousness. Shen Ruoxi's big, round eyes, which were usually as bright as black grapes, were now, out of sheer shock, as wide as 2 bronze bells. She looked as if she'd been struck by lightning, completely lost the ability to speak, and just stared at me, dumbfounded. Of course, this is just a one-sided proposal from me. The final decision rests with you. If you're still not mentally prepared, if you feel even a little bit resistant, then we can just forget about it. The reason I brought this up is purely because I feel that since we are, after all, a legally married couple, sharing a bed seems to be the natural thing to do. The moment the words "I do" left her lips, she realized how overly eager she sounded. She shyly covered her mouth with her hand, lowering her eyelashes in embarrassment. She didn't dare look at my teasing smile. I mean, We've been registered as married for 2 years after all. If we've decided to work on this marriage now, then moving in together is a perfectly reasonable step. I agree to move in with you. I'm glad you agree. But let me say one thing first, just to put your mind at ease. Until our feelings for each other have fully matured, before we reach that stage, I swear I will absolutely not do anything to force you or take any action that crosses the line. What the hell? Why wouldn't he do anything to me? Have I been eating too much lately and gotten fat? Have I lost my appeal? Or is the figure I've always been proud of not hot and sexy enough? Damn it, I'm not afraid of you unleashing your inner beast. You can do whatever you want to me. The thing I'm most afraid of, damn it, is you acting like some kind of saint, refusing to do anything at all, whatever. I'm done thinking about it. I'll just claim my territory and move in first, then figure it out. As for the rest, I'll slowly find a way to seduce you. Black stockings, white stockings, or nude stockings. One of them is bound to take you down. You should eat while it's still hot. Once the congee gets cold, the fishy smell from the seafood will be too strong to eat. As for the specifics of moving rooms, let's wait until after we go to my parents for dinner tomorrow. We can discuss it in more detail then. There's no rush. I'll listen to whatever you say. She then slurped up the entire pot of delicious seafood congee. The two of us were like an old married couple, walking under the moonlight, slowly strolling back along the same path we came. The night was still young on our way home. There were still occasional cars passing by on the road, and people hurrying home in the dark. The two of us walked side by side, chatting about random things. From the bizarre clients we encountered at work, to the trivial matters of everyday life. Then, from each other's hobbies, to our plans for the future. I suddenly realized that even if I didn't intentionally rely on the cheat of hearing her inner voice, as long as we were willing to open up and communicate, the chemistry between us was incredibly harmonious. This natural sense of ease and the joy that came with it were things that couldn't be faked. Pushing the door open, we entered the house. We fell into a natural rhythm, one after the other, as we walked up to the second-floor hallway. "Good night, my dear husband. Are you really not going to consider letting me move in tonight? Honestly, I don't have any cumbersome luggage. That needs packing. You just need to lead me over there, and wouldn't everything be perfect?" Faced with such an urgent inner desire from her, for once, I rarely chose not to go with the flow. After all, even someone with my extraordinary self-control needs a little private time to properly prepare himself mentally, to slowly adapt to the fact that, on this large bed, a huge shock in the form of a charming partner is about to appear. At the company, I'm like a precisely calibrated machine, efficiently handling tedious tasks all day long. As my fingertips typed out the final response, I decisively shut down my computer, clocking out punctually and precisely. On the drive home after work, at an elegant flower shop in the city center, I made a special stop, pulling the car over to the curb. I went inside to meticulously select a bouquet of red roses, so beautiful they were still dotted with morning dew. When I pushed open the door and entered the house, Shenruxi had already changed into a gentle, elegant outfit long ago. She was sitting quietly on the sofa, waiting for me. "Mom's favorite flowers are lilies. I thought this bouquet you brought home was a gift for Professor Line. I don't just know that Mom likes lilies, I also know very well that your favorite flower is the tulip. Unfortunately, at the flower shop just now, I didn't see any tulips that were beautiful enough. Next time I have the chance, I'll definitely make it up to you. But this bouquet of roses, I chose it especially for you. I hope you'll accept them. A red rose just for you. Do you like it?" "Of course I do. I super duper unbelievably love them. I love them more than anything. This is the first time in my life that my dear husband has given me flowers. I must treat them like a rare treasure and take very good care of them. In a couple of days, I'll take them to the lab at school and personally press them into dried flowers that will never wilt. Then I'll put them on my desk to admire every day. If you really like fresh flowers that much, I'll go to the flower shop and buy you a bouquet every day from now on." "Oh, that's not necessary. Don't be so extravagant and wasteful. A single bouquet of fresh flowers, if cared for properly, can last for at least 1 to 2 weeks. You just need to make sure to give me one once a week, and that's more than enough. Because just receiving flowers from you is enough to make me feel happy for an entire week." Her words were like a small pebble suddenly tossed, striking the calm lake of my heart with a splash, sending intense ripples across its surface. My heartbeat, which had been steady, became completely erratic in that instant. Well then, Professor Shen, seeing as you're in such a fantastic mood, would you be willing to grace your legal husband with your presence on a trip back to the old house? I was used to the respectful title from the academic world. Countless people called me Professor Shen. But ironically, when those three ordinary words were spoken from Lu Jinyan's lips, for some reason, they always carried a hint of flirtatious, lingering intimacy. Of course, I'd love to. Her eyes filled with adoration as she looked at the bouquet of roses. She carefully placed it on the coffee table. I watched as she lingered over the delicate petals, gently stroking them. The curve of my lips, no matter how hard I tried to suppress it, couldn't stop itself from turning up wildly. This is the 999th time I've been deeply moved by Lu Jinyan. The 1000th milestone is just around the corner. Ever since I happened to overhear her 998th heartbeat for me, this was the most heartfelt inner confession and the most moving one that Lu Jinyan had ever heard. I quietly gazed at her slender back. It looked somewhat fragile, yet was incredibly resilient. My heart, which had already been moved by her in that moment, now beat even more erratically. Let's go. We should head out a bit early. Otherwise, if we're late, Mom and Dad will start to worry. Shen Ruoxi lovingly touched the vibrant petals one last time. Her internal happiness index shot up by another few percentage points. She turned around, and with light, joyful steps, she walked towards me. She looked just like a little white rabbit, lost in love. Can we hold hands? Those three direct words, without any beating around the bush, made Shen Ruoxi pause for a moment. But she didn't leave my outstretched palm waiting for long. Without a single second of hesitation, she resolutely reached out her hand, placing her small palm firmly into my large, warm one. Of course we can. Perhaps compared to my previous, more reserved style of affection, that so-called gentlemanly demeanor that always kept a proper distance, what her heart truly yearned for was this kind of unreservedness, an intimate, skin-to-skin contact. Just a simple gesture like this was enough to make her sink into a state of immense happiness, unable to pull herself out. From the high-end apartment complex where we lived to the Lu family's old house, the distance wasn't considered far. With no traffic, the drive was half an hour at most. As I held Shen Ruoxi's hand and pushed open the heavy, carved wooden door of the old house, Professor Lin, who was watering the potted plants in the courtyard, immediately spotted us with her sharp eyes. She couldn't help but tease. Well, look what we have here. Our family's busy young Master Lu has finally decided to show his face, has he? Before the words were even out of her mouth, Professor Lin's gaze seemed to be drawn by a magnet, locking precisely onto our 10 intertwined fingers. Upon our tightly clasped hands, the light in her eyes suddenly flared up with astonishing brightness. My dear Ruoxi, you're here! Quick, come over here and let me get a good look at you. Oh my, how have you gotten so much thinner since the last time you visited? Have you been working too hard guiding students with their experiments lately? Shen Ruoxi replied with a sweet and obedient mom. Even though in her heart she was completely unwilling to let go of my hand, she still obediently pulled it away and walked towards her mother-in-law. Oh, come on now, Mrs. Lin. Your favoritism is a little too blatant, don't you think? It's my dear Ruoxi this and my dear Ruoxi that. You say it with such affection. But when it comes to your own flesh and blood, I suddenly become the young master you mock and ridicule. This kind of discrimination is just unbearable. Ha ha, Professor Lin burst into a radiant smile at my exaggerated complaint. Hearing her mother-in-law call her so intimately, Shenroxi's cheeks unconsciously flushed with a rosy hue. She shyly lifted her head, giving me a slightly bashful look. I responded to her with a smile full of indulgence and reassurance, just as I thought. This girl is a total paper tiger. The slightest touch and she turns bright red. Our Roxy's skin is practically glowing. It's too long to be standing out in the yard. Don't let the UV rays tan your skin. Lu Jinyan, what are you just standing there for? Hurry up and get in the kitchen to help your dad cook. Mom, how about I go to the kitchen and help instead? Lu Jinyan has been working hard at the company all day. He must be exhausted after getting off work. Hubby has already worked so hard all day. How can he be forced to cook the moment he gets home? I feel so bad for him, I could die. But then again, the sight of hubby wearing an apron in the kitchen, I can't even imagine how incredibly hot that would be.
Oh my god, just thinking about it is making me drool. A meal cooked by hubby's own hands. I saw right through our family's Empress Dowager's little trick at a glance. She obviously wanted to shoo me away on purpose, to make some private space so she could have a heart-to-heart with her precious daughter-in-law. All right, I'll take over the kitchen duties. You two noble ladies, just relax in the living room, snack on some melon seeds, and watch TV. Just sit back and wait for dinner to be ready. That's amazing. Hubby is actually great at cooking. Hubby works so hard and comes home so late. I definitely have to reward him handsomely. I'll set him up with a full A to Z massage service. But what if hubby faces my initiative and actually rejects me? Then what should I do? Hearing these bold words of hers, I couldn't help but secretly rub my hands together in excitement. I can't wait until we get back to our little love nest. Let me see just what kind of earth-shattering, mind-blowing method she'll use to offer me this special massage service. Oh my. Has young Master Lee actually lowered himself to visit the kitchen? Professor Lee teased while waving his spatula. Dad, stop ganging up with Mom to tease me. I'm here to lend a hand today. I laughed and rolled up my sleeves. Ha. Save the sweet talk. Where's Roxy? Hurry out to the living room and tell her to rest. Your dad specifically went to the market early today to pick the freshest ingredients to make the garlic spare ribs she's been craving the most. Yes, sir. If there's anything in the kitchen you need help with, just give me the word, Dad. After all, I'm a man who honed his cooking skills while studying abroad in the US. Seeing my parents' genuine love and blatant favoritism toward Roxy, that level of pampering, I suddenly felt like I had woken up from a dream and realized something a heartbreaking truth. Being married for over 2 years, it seems like only today did I finally wake up and realize that in this house, a biological son connected by blood like me actually has a status. Lower than the daughter-in-law who married into the family, she's too spoiled. What are you still doing standing at the door? Where did your soul wander off to? Look at you, your head is completely in the clouds. Anyone who didn't know better would think you two were newlyweds who just got their marriage certificate yesterday. Professor Lee used her elbow to nudge me. The dinner atmosphere was as cheerful and harmonious as always. The whole family was talking and laughing until Professor Lin solemnly put down the chopsticks in his hand. His burning gaze locked onto me, getting straight to the point. The moment those words came out, my heart tightened and alarm bells rang incessantly in my head. An extremely ominous premonition suddenly welled up. I mumbled a response. To hide the panic in my heart, I acted completely natural and picked up a piece of golden garlic spare ribs and placed it into Shinruoxi's bowl. Seeing her act incredibly surprised by the sudden gesture, her face flushed with shyness, hearing her inner thoughts bubbling up, those joyful sounds full of pink bubbles. In that moment, I felt that this family dinner, which was originally full of danger, seemed to have become incredibly interesting. Professor Lee's gaze was as sharp as a scalpel, not giving me the slightest chance to dodge the topic. You're not getting any younger. Have you discussed this thoroughly with Ruoxi? When are you planning to have a baby? Your sister and brother-in-law are always busy flying around. They barely see each other a few times a month. So I don't even bother rushing them to have kids anymore. But you and Ruoxi, you two sleep in the same bed every single night. Why hasn't there been any movement in her belly yet? Your dad and I are getting really anxious this time. Mom, it's because I've been genuinely too busy lately. The company is preparing to launch a new business division, and the projects at the university and the lab have all piled up at the same time. Don't use those useless excuses to justify yourself. Ruoxi's teaching schedule at the university, I already had someone in her department check on it. I know it like the back of my hand. She isn't nearly as busy as you claim. Oh, Mom, I'm not lying to you. She really is busy teaching and guiding her students. Anyway, when the company was first founded, I had to make every single decision, big or small, by myself. You know that was in the past. So what about now? Now that your company has long been on the right track, do you have any other decent excuses? Exactly. So what about now? Oh, my dear hubby, have you finally made up your mind to have a baby of our own? As for me, I can cooperate with you anytime, anywhere. Little did I know that Professor Gu at this moment outwardly looked so dignified, with a face full of righteous impartiality, staring intently at me, as if this matter had absolutely nothing to do with her. But in reality, the high-speed train in her heart had already accelerated to its 300 km/h limit. What a little liar, saying one thing but thinking another. I secretly laughed to myself. Ha ha ha. Well, even if we can breathe a little easier now, you guys shouldn't pressure us too much, right? Carrying on the family line should happen naturally. It requires the right time, the right place, and the right people. If you keep bringing this up all day long, it'll actually create an invisible psychological pressure on us, and I'm afraid that would backfire. What does hubby mean by that? What is he planning? Could it be he's actually putting the baby-making plan on the schedule? That's amazing, hubby. Just give the word, and when we get home tonight, I'll dig out all the battle outfits and props Yun Ying gave me. I'll tear the place apart and gear up for battle. After dinner ended, US young couple joined the two professors to sit in the living room and watch some primetime TV for a bit. Those long, dragging soap operas. Seeing that it was getting late, we stood up and excused ourselves, preparing to head home. During the entire drive back to our love nest, I kept my ears perked up, full of anticipation that Shin Roxy would take the initiative to fulfill her promise from the dinner table, waiting for me to bring up the massage. But to my utter shock, this girl, during the car ride home, was like a tightly sealed jar, not saying a single word. Not only did she stay silent the whole way, but even in her inner thoughts, she didn't reveal a single related word. After we smoothly arrived home and changed our shoes, to give her a hint, I deliberately put on an act in front of her, stretching my arms out wide and specifically raised my hand to heavily pat my own shoulder a few times. This underlying hint was practically written all over my face. Sure enough, as expected, Gu Qingcheng immediately caught onto my movements. She stared at my stiff shoulder for a moment, hesitated there for a bit, before finally speaking up in a voice as quiet as a mosquito. Earlier in the faculty lounge, I learned a few muscle-relaxing massage techniques from the other female teachers at the university. If you're really feeling sore right now and completely exhausted, do you want to personally experience my skills? My massages feel amazing. Seriously, they're top-notch, hubby. Please hurry up and agree to try it. I'm begging you. If you refuse to try it, I'll be so heartbroken I could die. I'm practically serving myself up on a silver platter here. I wonder if hubby will accept my good intentions. If he stubbornly refuses and absolutely won't let me into his room, what should I do? The little deer in my heart is running around like crazy right now. It's about to crash and die, hubby. Open the door quickly, hubby. Hurry up and open the door. Do you even want a wife or not? Just give me a single nod, and this beautiful, precious wife of yours will deliver herself right to your door. Hurry up and let her in.